Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen, whenever y'all are catching this, of course. Welcome to episode 60 of the Uncommon Commentators. I'm your host, Antoine Willis, and this is my co-host, Garrett Brown. How you doing tonight, Garrett? You good, man?
I am good, my brother. How are you?
I'm doing all right, man. It's blessed and highly favored always to have these conversations with you. I'm just going to chop it up about the league tonight, of course, chop it up about some good old basketball. There's some games going on tonight, like the Hawks versus the Raptors. But we were going to chop it up about some of the biggest disappointments that we've thought have been in the league so far this season. Now, of course, we're going to be fair to these teams that have gone through injuries and things of that nature, but it's more so about the optics of the franchise and what they have gone through up until this moment, or any teams that have, going through any inner turmoil, any drastic situations like firing coaches, stuff like that. But yeah, we were going to go ahead and get straight to it with our show tonight. Again, I want to thank all of y'all for joining us. God bless y'all and thank you again. And for the first topic tonight, like we said, we were going to discuss the biggest disappointments in the league, starting out with the Eastern Conference, because, of course, me and Garrett both stay on the East Coast. Yeah, man, so I was just going to go ahead and give my first team for the Eastern Conference and just give, like, a little bit of reasoning for that, and I guess get your thoughts on, like, how the team is doing so far and what you think they should do going into the trade deadline and stuff like that. So my first team for the biggest disappointment was the Philadelphia 76ers. They started out this offseason super strong when they signed Paul George out of the offseason. Obviously, we know what happened with the Los Angeles Clippers, and it just not working out with Kawhi Leonard, unfortunately, with their injury situation. But he came over to Philadelphia with a fresh start in mind, and we know he suffered, I believe it was a hyperextension in his knee that kept him out for a significant long time. And even like during that time, like the Sixers just fell to like the bottom of the Eastern Conference, similar to the Bucks, of course. They were like, I think like almost like 2-10 at one point. It was really, really bad for Philadelphia. They were 47-35 last year, so they were still a pretty good team with just Joel and Maxey on the team. But we knew adding Paul George was supposed to take them to the next level and finally make them an Eastern Conference contender after not being able to make it past the second round during the Embiid era. So I was just trying to get your thoughts on what Philadelphia has gone through so far. They're currently 15-27, and they're on like a 7-game losing streak at the moment. So what do you think should happen with Philly? Like, do you think like they're gonna blow it up? Do you think they should try to weather the storm and just get ready for playoff time? Like, what are your thoughts on the entirety of the Philadelphia 76ers season?
Excuse me. Yeah, actually, I had Philly on my list as well as one of the biggest disappointing teams in the East.
Mm-hmm.
For me, is that I understood everybody knew the whole meaning of adding Paul George to Philly. Obviously, that was a win now move to compete for a championship, at least in a perfect world for Philly. But my concern was the exact same concern that they're going through now with the plethora of injuries, excuse me, between Embiid and Paul George. And I already knew that wasn't going to work from the jump, not from a talent standpoint, just more so of like, hey, you already have an injury prone player, MVP player in Embiid, and now you're adding another one. And both of those guys just can't stay healthy consistently to where you can win games and make a deep run into the postseason. So for me, because even before they added Paul George, I think Philly should have blown this up, maybe I would say after when they made it to the playoffs, when they play, I think it was like 2 seasons ago when they played against Boston when they went to 7 games. I think they should have blown it after then because of the fact that Embiid, he's just not healthy enough to lead this team to a championship. And I think now is a good time to do that because I don't know what you're going to get for Joel Embiid. I would assume maybe, just maybe, you may get the same package that the Jazz got when they traded Rudy Gobert, that big package that they got. I think they could get something similar to that or something close. But I just don't see Philly making a deep run to the playoffs or winning a championship. So I think it's just time for them just to blow it up and start over and build around Tyrese Maxey and the other young guys.
Yeah, and even as you say that, as you mentioned the Philadelphia's injuries, even counting today, January 23rd, Thursday, with the updated injury reports and such, Kyle Lowry is injured, Caleb Martin is injured, Andre Drummond is injured, the big man himself, Joel Embiid is injured, KJ Martin is injured, and Jared McCain is also injured. Jared McCain, who was also having a great rookie year, averaging 15 points a game this season. He was looking really, really good coming out of Duke, I thought he was a massive sleeper in the draft, and to see him come out and have an impact like this in his rookie season. I won't say it was unexpected because we knew what he was doing at Duke, but I feel like he was really in the running for Rookie of the Year, especially in if Philadelphia was performing better, honestly performing like how they normally do, how they were expected to this season. I definitely think Jared McCain could have really, really came in, because he would have performed like that regardless. So he really could have came in and just took off and really been a massive bench piece for them. But we'll see what they do. Obviously, like we just mentioned, their injuries, they obviously just got to wait for their players to come back. In terms of blowing it up, I can see why you would say that. Obviously, we've seen Joel Embiid go through his fair share of adversity with the fans recently. He came out and said that he felt like he gave a lot to the city. Obviously, these players, I feel like they go through a lot of wear and tear that we truly do not know about, having those big bodies at 7'1", 7'2", with 280 pounds, even as it comes out of my mouth. It sounds kind of ridiculous. And then be clashing with those men every single night. And they play so aggressive on the court. Truly, it's incomprehensible how aggressive they truly do play with those millions of dollars on the line. So I think I could see Joel trying to find an exit out of Philadelphia. During his tenure, he did win an MVP. I believe he made the All-Star team about 6 times. He played great. It's just we knew that injuries played a massive, massive role in his legacy in Philadelphia. Again, they have not made it past the second round during the trust the process era, of course, with Joel Embiid. I still think he's a good player. I still think he is a superstar center, but his numbers have dipped this season. Of course, obviously he's had his injuries, but he is averaging 24 points and 8 rebounds a game this season. Compared to his season last year where he was averaging 34 points and 11 rebounds a game last season. So I think it's a matter of inspiration for him as well. I do think he would like a change of scenery. We know how hard it is to play in Philadelphia. Not everyone gets love like Charles Barkley and Allen Iverson, of course. I really do think that a change of scenery would be good for him, It would honestly be cool to see him in a New Jersey, in a new situation. I do think he'll be the guy, quote unquote, wherever he goes. I think he draws so much attention on the offensive end, and we know how good he is on defense. When inspired, he's only 30 years old. And he's still pretty young right now. He's still in the middle of his prime. You could say his prime is just now starting. Of course, he has had a fair share of injuries again, which can play a massive role as he turns 33, 34. We've seen big men decline severely as they've hit that age with numerous calf injuries, leg injuries. We've seen Hawks center Clint Capella, who's 30 years old, but has dropped off severely. If you watch him on the court, of course, he's still averaging almost a double-double this season of the 30-year-old Clint Capella. But if you've seen him over the last couple seasons, you know that his progression, his production has definitely regressed. Absolutely. And yeah, just to end on the Sixers, we'll see what they do. Like we said, they're hurt. We'll see if they really pull the trigger on Embiid to let him go. But again, one of the biggest disappointments, absolutely, especially after signing Paul George this year. And another disappointment for me this season was honestly the Miami Heat. As of right now, they are 21-21. It's just rare to see Miami in a mediocre state like the way they are now. Last season, they finished 46-36, but now they are on the verge of a complete rebuild, you could honestly say. We'll see if they keep Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo and try to build around those long-term veterans at this point. It's funny calling them veterans because they're still really young, but they've been in Miami for so long. And we've never seen them anywhere else. Obviously, we know the big elephant in the room is the Jimmy Butler situation. Their franchise superstar. We really don't know what's gonna happen with Jimmy Butler. Like he's been dropping little like innuendos and little hints here and there that he wants to go to the Phoenix Suns. That's in the press, that's been his front runner. Of course, we haven't really seen him like say out his mouth like that, but he did say that he does not think he can recapture his happiness in Miami for the love of basketball. As of right now, they are the ninth seed and they are 4-6 in their last 10. How do you feel about the Heat and what's happened so far this season? Obviously, we have to be fair to them with their superstar basically walking out on them, taking game suspensions, just to not play for them, losing money out of his pocket just to not represent the jersey on the floor. So, how do you feel about what's happened down in Miami this season? A normally stable, composed franchise with Pat Riley at the top.
Yeah, man. I think I said this maybe 2 episodes ago about just seeing how the partnership between the Heat organization and Jimmy Butler just break apart like that.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen him again take them to the finals twice within the last, few years now, and see how this whole relationship came apart. I would have thought he was going to retire as a Miami Heat, but obviously it's not looking that way. And you're hearing the reports day by day. You're getting more information on what's taking place. And I think it's fair to say most he's going to be out by the trade deadline. That's what it seems like it's going to look like. But obviously anything can happen to where they may keep him and wait until the off season. But based on what I heard today, it seems like they're ready to get rid of him and move on. But yeah, I think that, and even though honestly, even if they didn't have this turmoil going on, I think that at some point you would have to make this move anyway to trade Jimmy because of the fact that he is, up there in his 30s,
Mm-hmm.
and Miami, they don't have way the roster is constructed, they don't have enough to really compete to make another, championship run. So I think that it is the right move to build around Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero and go about it that way and just start over. You already have one of the greatest coaches in the history of the NBA and Eric Spoelstra. And like I said, you have one of the best executives in the league and Pat Riley as well. So you're definitely in good hands. So there's nothing to lose. But I think that with this feud between Jimmy and Heat organization, I think this just pushes them even more to go into that full rebuild and just start over.
What do you think a full rebuild looks like for them? Do you think they would try to go all in on this draft, or do you think like they trade everyone, keep Tyler, trade everyone, keep Bam? Like, what do you think the full rebuild looks like for Miami?
Well, Pat Riley, he's a winner. So,
Mm-hmm.
and he would prefer to get win now players, and which is what you will hear from Pat Riley. But I think that for Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero, you may not want to go into a full rebuild, but more so going into a reset, or I should say retool the roster. Let me not say full rebuild. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you could, but I don't think that they would do that because Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero, they're both in their prime. You may not want to do that, but but this roster has to be retooled completely. Now, I don't know what kind of win now players they would get back, or even more so the whole trade package for Jimmy Butler as well, because of the fact that he is up in his 30s. So it's not like he's going to play for another 10 years or nothing like that. But I'm just saying that you may not know what kind of package that you're going to get from him. So you may not get a young star player back in return or anything like that. Now, obviously, with the Suns, they traded their 2031 first round pick to the Jazz to get 3 picks back. That may be what the kind of deal Miami may get, where they get a few first round picks back for Jimmy and maybe a couple of players that can contribute right away. But I just think that they need to at least retool the roster. May not have to go into a full rebuild, but they need to make some moves if they're trying to get back into the top 6 in the East and make another deep run into the playoffs.
Absolutely, and we know like how you mentioned with Eric Spoelstra, literally one of the greatest coaches ever. As long as they have him and they're around a 4th to 6th seed, they can make anything shake in a playoff series. It honestly doesn't matter who they have on the floor. Eric Spoelstra is really that intelligent. He can make any lineup work. And like when you mentioned the retooling, I love what you said about that. That's why I wanted to ask you. My man always giving good takes as always. It looks like their future has already taken over, in my opinion. Like Tyler Hero is already leading the team in scoring with 24 points. 5 assists a game. He leads the team in assists as well. Bam Adebayo leads the team with 10 rebounds per game while averaging 16 points. It feels like he's averaged around that the last few seasons, the last about maybe 2 or 3, something like that. With him averaging about 16 and 10, yet to take that leap to that 20 and 10 guy. A lot of people want to see like Bam be like a mini Dwight Howard almost, like to see him really take over. He's a really, real imposing figure, even for a 6'9" center. He still has a really strong build. Absolutely, you could definitely say that. Terry Rozier is averaging 12 points a game. Duncan Robinson's averaging 11. And Nikola Jovic is averaging 10, and same with Jaime Jaquez, who's also averaging 10. I wanted to give some love to Khalil Ware, the rookie coming out of Indiana. He looked great in his last 2 games for Miami. Against the Spurs, he had 25 points and eight rebounds. And against the Trailblazers, even though they lost, he had 20 points and 15 rebounds. So when you get the opportunity, you can show what you can do, and it feels like the future for Miami isn't so dark as people try to make it out to seem. If they wanted to go all in on Tyler Hero, I think he can increase his scoring to 26 a game. I think he can do that if they really decide to go all in on him like that. He's still very young at 25 years old. He just turned 25 too. His birthday's on January 20th. So Tyler is still really young and he's having this breakout season this year. So I think they should honestly, like how you said, really try to see what they could do with some retooling. And with Jimmy Butler, maybe you try to get a pick with that. Maybe that's where you get the future on the team off Jimmy Butler, but you'll still have a good young core with Tyler Hero, with Bam Adebayo. And it's unfortunate for the Miami Heat just ending their team as we move on to the next one. It's unfortunate. This was really unexpected, in my opinion, to really see Jimmy come out and really act this way, really rebelling against Miami the way that he has. I want to go back to what you said when you mentioned his age. He is 35 years old. I do think that he just doesn't see it from that way. He just doesn't. He thinks he can play at that level till 41 probably. And unfortunately for these players, not everyone is LeBron James. He is a true anomaly. We see Kevin Durant, who hasn't missed a step at 35 years old as well. And also Stephen Curry, who is playing fantastic at 36 years old now. I think Stephen is. It's just with Jimmy, he's already averaging, I get it, around right now he's averaging 17 points a game. But when he plays, when he's motivated, he's a 20 point per game scorer. He can lead a team with his leadership. He's a good veteran. He has deep playoff experience, championship experience, and he brings a lot to a team even now, which I think he still believes that, which he has every right to. He works on his game every day. But at the end of the day, and again, these are just my 2 cents, of course. I really think that Jimmy should honestly, just go to work, man. Like, just go to work. Like, I get it. Like, you're taking money out of your pocket, just not trying to play basketball. But like, there's people out there that play
Hmm.
basketball for free. There's children out there in the cold playing basketball for free, literally right now, praying that they get paid even like a percentage of what Jimmy Butler has made playing basketball. Now, of course, like again, like he's grinded his entire way from a child to the NBA. So he has every right to feel self confident and be well within himself to feel like he's right in his decision making. But at the end of the day, you got to be professional. They paid you a lot of money, even on the contract that they had you on. And obviously, like if you're acting this way in front of all 29 other teams, they might not want that kind of negativity on their team. They want people that are going to show up to work regardless of whatever situation, regardless, whatever's going on. And I get it. Like for him, and I get it for Jimmy, because like how you said, and we're going to move on to the third team in a second, but it's like how you said, they made the finals twice. He probably felt very betrayed at the fact that they didn't want to give him that big max extension. He's like, oh, okay, they think I'm getting old. They don't see the value in me anymore. He probably thought that was like something, honestly, kind of like a veteran contract in a way, like honestly rewarding him for all the hard work he had done. He was probably, like how you said, he was going to retire on that contract more than likely, and that just really made him angry. He didn't get that big payday that he wanted so bad, and it truly is unfortunate for Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat. But we'll see what they do. Like Pat Riley's still a smart guy, and so is Eric Spoelstra. But to end my last team on the biggest disappointments in the East, I was going to say, and again, of course, we're being fair, but it's also about the optics of the team. I was going to say the Orlando Magic. I know we have to move on to our Western Conference team, so I'll keep this one rather short. But for me, the Magic, they started out really, really strong this season. Paulo Banchero and Franz Wagner were playing outstanding. Both suffer injuries, including Mo Wagner as well, who's also suffered an injury for the Magic as well. But they still played good after they lost their massive pieces. They were still winning games relatively consistently, at least like for what they had dwindled down to, not having their star players. But now they've fully fallen off a cliff after the return of Paulo Banchero. Of course, the season's still relatively early. It's not even past All-Star break yet. But I thought Orlando would honestly hover around like the third seed, fourth seed, like all season. But they've currently lost the last 4 games in a row. They even lost to the Raptors, who, I mean, I only say this because it's funny. Me and Garrett are Hawks fans, and like the Hawks are losing to the Raptors right now too. But they have lost to the Raptors. They lost to the Nuggets. They lost to the Celtics and the Bucks in their last 4 games. Now, obviously, like in the NBA, any team can defeat any team on any given night. But for me, it's really more so about how Orlando's really kind of hit a wall, I think you could say. I think people have adjusted to their style of play, even though, of course, they're still really athletic in all the skills that they possess. But still, though, I just think they've kind of hit a wall. And we'll see how they bounce back from this. Paulo Banchero is back now. And they're still but now like they have started to lose games for some reason. It's pretty confusing. Like he had 26 points and 12 rebounds against the Raptors, but they lost the game, unfortunately, like how I mentioned. And even against the Nuggets, he only had 10 points and 7 rebounds. So obviously, like the superstar player is still working his way back into the lineup. Even though he has came back, he still might not be at full like 100%. Got to give a shout out to my man Jay Holloway. Thank you for again giving us this opportunity to do this, man. And we hope y'all are having a great show over there as well. Also, guys, go subscribe to the Best Damn W Show. They're fantastic. They do great coverage. They've received praise from like world-renowned NBA media pundits. So definitely go give them a watch. They're extremely credible, and they have a really, really smooth production over there.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. And that's honestly my take on the Magic. How do you think they bounce back from their recent losses? And where do you think they honestly just go for the rest of the season? Like I said, they're still waiting for Franz Wagner to come back at the moment. He's their second franchise player. He was averaging 24 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists. Truly an all-star campaign by the young 23-year-old before he got injured. So how do you think Orlando performs the rest of the season?
Yeah, I think they'll be fine once they get, once everybody is fully back healthy. Obviously, they took a big hit with both Paulo and Franz Wagner,
Mhm,
but obviously, when they first started, they were on a roll. They were a top four seed team, and then they end up hitting this. I mean, really, early part of the season, everybody was getting injured. I mean, it was like dropping like flies. But if Orlando is able to get back healthy before the second half of the well after All-Star break, then I think they'll be fine. Then I think they can climb their way back into the top four, top five seed in the
mhm,
East. I would, and we'll talk about it later, about teams that we would like to see at a trade deadline. I think Orlando should be active because we all know that they are an elite defensive team. Now it's more so what can they do to add offensively to take that next step. Obviously, we know with Paulo and Franz and Jalen Suggs, but who's also going to be that other guy that's going to take pressure off of those guys offensively. But yeah, I think for Orlando, once they get everybody back fully healthy after the All-Star break, then
mhm.
I think they'll be fine. So there's no major concern.
And we fully agree on this. I still think they have one of the brightest young cores in all of the NBA, all of basketball. With Jalen Suggs, Franz Wagner, like I said, both brothers, Giga Bitadze. They just added Contavious Caldwell Pope, who is an
Yep.
amazing veteran for that locker room, a championship level veteran. Anthony Black, who I'm extremely high on, coming out of Arkansas. Shout out to John Calipari as well. Um, and yeah, I really do think Orlando, they're still a good team. Obviously, we're just gonna see how they really face the adversity of really dealing with these injuries in the middle of the season. Like how you said, I do agree that they will be perfectly fine. If they don't really achieve what they wanted to this season, like of course winning a ring is hard, but I mean like just some moderate playoff success really showed the improvement that they were working on over the off season. I think next season they'll be perfectly fine. I think they'll even add more pieces over the off season. And they have one superstar and one person like that's honestly has the potential to be a superstar. He has to build Franz Wagner at 6'10" and all the scoring intangibles to become a superstar. But we'll see what the Magic do. Obviously, still a great young core, like how we said. And moving on to the Western Conference, got to talk about these three teams as well. So for me, the biggest disappointment I mean, I can't even say biggest, but they are first on my list. Are the Phoenix Suns? They're 22-21 at the moment. After hiring Mike Budenholzer, I thought that was going to change the dynamic of their team completely. The former coach of the year, of course, Mike Budenholzer, the former NBA champion with the Milwaukee Bucks, Mike Budenholzer. And for some reason, it really hasn't panned out the way it should have. We know they have Bradley Beal as well, but it even got to a point where people thought Bradley Beal, was going to get traded from Phoenix. Like there were screenshots coming out of him not being in the huddle during timeouts and like really, really some leakage of inner turmoil and really. Obviously, we've known that Bradley Beal is accustomed to being a star of a franchise, and he's still playing relatively good right now, even being like a third, fourth option, maybe I guess you could say. But what do you think has gone wrong with Phoenix at the moment? Obviously, Kevin Durant is still playing at a really high level. Like I said, even at 35 years old, he is still playing absolutely fantastic. But they sit as the 10th seed in the Western Conference, at the bottom of the play-in at that, which is extremely surprising for the superstar talent they have on this team. And like I said, Devin Booker's averaging 25 points a game. He has played 38 games this season, so he has been healthy. KD has played 33 games, so he has been healthy. And Beal has played 30 games, so he's been relatively healthy. So their best three scoring options have all been present almost every night throughout the league. And for some reason, like they just still sit at the 10th seed. Like, what do you think has been the problem with Phoenix thus far? Like in the Kevin Durant experiment, and how do you think the rest of their season goes, given what we've seen thus far from the Phoenix Suns?
Yeah, I think when you look at through a lens, and even for last season when they had the big three that they have with Beal, Katie, and Booker. It seems like you're bringing and really the Bradley Beal trade didn't make any sense for me, honestly, especially
Mm-hmm.
with with him and Booker playing together, the fit just didn't seem right. And even though they went out and hired Mike Budenholzer, a guy that I truly love as a coach, and they went out and got a point guard and Tyus Jones. So and it really that didn't fix anything, but it may just be a combination of things because when the Hawks recently played against Phoenix at home, to me, it just seemed like the body language just wasn't there. It just seemed like Phoenix wasn't really trying, and I would say that it may be due to lack of injuries or just not having enough depth. Because Onyeka Okongwu, who is our starting center going forward now, he did have 20 rebounds that game and 20 points. So it may just be where the fit just may not be there for everybody. That's why I said the Bradley Beal trade just didn't make sense for me.
Mhm.
So I do applaud them going after Jimmy Butler because he's a guy we all know who is a tremendous two-way player, a guy that can give you 20 points and play elite defense on all levels. And but like I said, it's just more so finding that balance. And until they do that, then this is the kind of struggle that you're going to need because obviously on paper you would think this is a top four seed team, but
Mhm.
obviously it doesn't, it's not there right now. So I think they need to find that balance of players that fit and come in and do exactly what Mike Budenholzer, does on a daily basis. He has a standard. He has won a championship. So I think that's what they need.
Yeah, no, like I agree wholeheartedly. Even looking at some of their stats, they average 27 rebounds as a team. They average 112 points as a team. So like the rebounding is pretty good. They even average 7 steals as a team. So I feel like that's where we kind of see where some of the things are going wrong at. Obviously, we know the defense hasn't been the best for the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's been honestly the main issue. They have one of the most dynamic offensive tools in the league with all the players they even have on the bench.
Hmm.
Like even like a player like Grayson Allen, I still think he can shoot the lights out. Ryan Dunn has been very impressive in his rookie year.
I like him a lot with his
Mm-hmm.
defense too. Yep.
Absolutely. And for him to only be 22 years old, coming out of Virginia, I think he's going to be on the Phoenix Suns for a very, very long time, really become a part of their core. Whoever they build around in the future, I think he'll be like that guy's like role player, I'm excited to see what they do. Obviously, they still have a lot of players on the team, and I say that because if they wanted to make some trades,
Hmm.
they would have a lot of pieces that they could use to make some really good packages to really improve the things they actually need, not the things that look good on paper. For the Phoenix Suns. And moving on to the next team, who I thought was also another disappointment, was the New Orleans Pelicans. They are currently 12-32 right now. They were decimated by multiple injuries, of course, even after acquiring, especially after acquiring DeJounte Murray. That's one of the reasons why I have them on the list. He was going to change the dynamic of their offense wholeheartedly with what DeJounte Murray can bring to a team. When he was playing with the San Antonio Spurs, when he's at his max level at like the highest usage, he was averaging 9 assists a game. So I thought he was going to just really pick up where he left off in San Antonio. But unfortunately, when he first got there, like he suffered an injury, and so did everyone else. CJ McCollum suffered an injury. Herbert Jones, Trey Murphy, and also Zion Williamson has also been in and out of the lineup. So I think for the Pelicans, it's just because obviously, like we said, like the injuries were going to play a part. But it's just the fact that they are 12-32. Like they're in the Cooper Flag sweepstakes, man. Like I honestly didn't think it would be like that. For New Orleans, at home they're 8-16. On the road they're 4-16. Um, and honestly, like I said, they have a good roster on paper. Absolutely. I am still very high on Trey Murphy. I'm high on Herbert Jones. Absolutely. And Zion Williamson as well, but he's only played 10 games for the Pelicans this season. In those 10 games, he did average 22 points and 8 rebounds a game. And even with an update 3 hours ago from ESPN. He's out on Friday's game versus the Grizzlies due to a return to competition reconditioning. So he's trying to get his wind up, really get his conditioning back to where it needs to be to play at the NBA level. Now, of course, like everyone's loves to criticize Zion for his body and the shape that he will be in. But I do think honestly it's deeper than that. I truly think that honestly, even when he got drafted to New Orleans back in 2019, and it was like he didn't even want to go there. You could see in his face that when he got drafted, he was really depressed. Like people were making jokes that when he was crying on draft night, the way that he was, they were trying to say it's because he's going to New Orleans, stuff like that. When he first got there, they had a whole parade for him. I remember watching like the draft day video. They had like a draft party in the street because they knew they had a generational prospect coming to the city. But I feel like because they've generated really no success since he has been there, I feel like it's a matter of inspiration for Zion. Like I think if he was on a team that really lit a fire under him, he could really show his true potential. But time and time again, like it's been the same thing with Zion Williamson like the last few years now. Like it truly is unfortunate. All the hype he had coming out of Duke. And since 2019 on, like his best season was his sophomore season. In my opinion, he played 61 games. He averaged 27 points a game with 7 rebounds, and 4 assists a game. And I thought he was only going to take off from there. He was averaging 27 points in his second year, So it really is unfortunate to see what's happened with the New Orleans Pelicans. I wanted to talk about the Zion part in extended duration particularly because I feel like that's where it all starts at. Like he's supposed to be like their superstar, like their franchise centerpiece, and he's still only 24. He was supposed to like really take off at 21 years old, which as you saw his sophomore year he played outstanding. But what do you think has happened with the Pelicans? And obviously we've seen them be injured this year. How do you think DeJounte Murray fits into the team, and like where do you think they really go from here? Seeing how Zion's only played 10 games this season, and they're high in the draft this year. Like most draft mocks I've checked have had them drafting Dylan Harper in their reset, which I think would be beautiful for the Pelicans franchise to draft a whole new franchise superstar that's going to develop in the future. But what do you think the Pelicans should do this summer, or like as they go on the rest of the season?
I think they're at a two-way street right now, meaning that okay, you traded for DeJounte Murray. Obviously, you have Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram, a guy that they are still interested in bringing back, Trey Murphy, and other key pieces. So obviously, they've been hit with a lot of injuries all season long. So we can only imagine that if this team was fully healthy, I mean, they could be a top 6 seed, possibly, maybe, or at least a play-in team. So you can understand that part. But to your point about Zion with his injuries and may not have wanted to go to New Orleans when he got first drafted back in 2019, and even for me, his injury history is a bit concerning because he's not there when you need him. So it wouldn't be a surprise for me if they're considering moving on from him. And I think that for them being one of the worst teams in the league as of right now may be the best thing for them, only considering that the fact that, to your point, hey, they could potentially get a Cooper Flag. They could potentially get an Ace Bailey. And these are guys these guys are future all-star players, in my opinion. So it could be where, hey, they can still bottom out and not really try to compete, even if they can get as many bodies back as they can. And if they're able to get Ace Bailey and a Cooper Flag, I think this would be the time to move on from Zion Williamson. Now the question is that is there a team that's really going to take him? Maybe, but and to be honest with you, I don't know if you're going to get that much back from him, considering the fact of his injury history. So that may be a setback. But like I said, they're on a two-way street. They can just bottom out and restart the roster because they're gonna have to make some decisions anyway in the off season with Zion and Brandon Ingram if they're truly going to bring them back. Or they could be like, well, we added DeJounte Murray and this is the time that we thought we were going to compete for a playoff spot and make a deep run. Well, let's run it back and see what we can do. But I think that I think they can still do that. They can still do both. But I just think that in the off season, they're really going to make a decision on what they want to do with Zion. But if I had to bet on it, or if I was a GM, I would bottom out, see if hopefully you would get either Cooper Flag or Ace Bailey and move on from Zion and then run it back with everybody else.
Yeah, man, like you laid that out very nicely, man. The GM should give you a call. As of right now, DeJounte Murray is averaging 17 points a game with 7 rebounds and 8 assists. So he's still playing really good. He's played about 27 games this season. So we know that again, he suffered a debilitating injury in the beginning of the season, which really kept him out for a pretty significant amount of time. And for Murray, I started with him after your comment because I think with New Orleans, like I think that's what they do, man. I think with the situation that they're in, with like the stars aligning with this draft class in particular, like this is your one chance in like the future. Of course, the Pelicans aren't going to go anywhere. Like there's a lot of money in New Orleans. There's a lot of basketball love in New Orleans. So they're definitely not going to leave. The Pelicans are definitely here to stay in New Orleans, but the fans deserve something to cheer about. So I do think that this summer is when they should do it. This is my opinion now, of course, when we give our opinions. I think that this is when they do it. I think this summer is when they pull the trigger. Like I think Zion, like how much more like time does he need? Like how much more of a sample size do you need? Like you've been like it's like 5 years, man. Like if you don't want to be here, someone else is gonna do your job, and like that's it. They will draft a young, hungry dude that will like. I mean, don't get me wrong. Obviously, Zion when he got drafted there, like everyone thought he was here to stay, but everybody's different, and that like this young kid is gonna love his opportunity, whether they get Dylan Hart. I think if fast forward to June, if we're at the lottery and like we really see who like if the Pelicans are up there at like the 3rd pick or like the 2nd pick, no less than 3rd, and they still have like Zion on the roster in free agency and all that, that's when I would let him go. I would let him go at the draft. I would draft someone that night and try to flip him for another pick that night. And again, I started off with Murray because he plays the shooting guard position for the Pelicans, but obviously he can play the point guard as well. And I would like to see him play the point guard alongside like an Ace Bailey, like how you mentioned. Like I think in my mock, I guess I'm spoiling it right now, I think Dylan Harper is going to go number 2 overall in the draft. He's just been absolutely spectacular over at Rutgers University. It's funny I say that because, of course, he plays alongside Ace Bailey. Both have played outstanding on the collegiate circuit, but I think Dylan Harper is going to be the number 2 overall pick, not the clear number 2. I don't think he's that at least above Ace Bailey like that, who just had 30 points and 7 rebounds, shooting like 13 of 15 the other night. He's been playing absolutely outstanding. He has shown, like Garrett said, he is absolutely going to be a future All-Star without a doubt. It's literally undoubtable. So I think if they don't fall past 3, they should pull the trigger and really go on with the reset. And we'll see what they do. But that's really it for the Pelicans. Again, like I think they should rebuild at the draft. I think Zion has had more than enough time to prove that he wants to get there. They've tried time and time. How many pictures over the offseason have we seen of him losing weight and stuff like that? And like he'll balloon back up. And like, again, that's just discipline, man. That's motivation. Like when you gotta show up, when you gotta report to that team in September, and like they're gonna be expecting you to look a certain way. Like like Miami has a rule for that, unlike the BMI index and all that. So, yeah, man, like we'll see what happens with the Pelicans. But like I said, I think they should rebuild this summer, and they have enough, young enough, old enough talent with, DeJounte being 28, stuff like that, where they can build around like an Ace Bailey, like how you said. And my last team for this topic, of course, for the biggest disappointments in the league thus far, was the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now,
yes. I thought you were gonna say somebody else. Yes,
absolutely. Yes. Of course. So obviously it was massive news when they traded their longtime. Well, for a while he was their franchise superstar. Of course, he got pushed to the side when they drafted Anthony Edwards. When they traded Karl Anthony Towns, that was a pretty big deal. They had just signed him to like a 4-year extension or something like that. Like he's on a brand new deal. I think it was like 220 million for Karl Anthony. So to see him get traded like that, literally was swapped for Julius Randle the way that they did. I was honestly shocked. They went to the Western Conference Finals with that roster. I thought they were only going to build off of that. So to see what happened to them after trading away Karl Anthony Towns was a massive drop off. Julius Randle, before he suffered his shoulder injury in New York, he was averaging like 24 points and 9 rebounds and 5 assists a game, the former most improved player of the year. He was playing outstanding before his injury occurred. He even said himself he was shocked when he was traded by the New York Knicks. He said he gave a lot of blood, sweat, tears into that jersey. And it was unfortunate we didn't get to really see him really shine like that alongside Jalen Brunson the way we really should have. Like when Brunson was going off, Randall was injured for like most of that time. So we didn't get to really see them shine like that the way we should have as a dynamic duo, like the point guard with the power forward. Well, I mean, we're seeing him shine now with Karl Anthony Towns. So like I said, they have fallen to the bottom of the Western Conference. Even Anthony Edwards has ridiculed his team multiple times in the locker room after the game. So what do you think happens with the Timberwolves? They still have that young generational superstar at the top of the roster with another star right beside him and Rudy Gobert as well and Jaden McDaniels as well. So what do you think happens with the Minnesota Timberwolves?
Man, look, you know that we are Hawks fans, but there's literally two teams that I feel sorry for. One are the Brooklyn Nets, not as of right now, meaning that when they had Kyrie Irving, KD, and James Harden, I feel like they should have won a championship when those three were together, at least one. And I think they were on their way, but then they had some injuries, going on, so they weren't able to make it. All right. And obviously, this one is the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, I was in Vegas when I found out that they traded Cat to the Knicks. I mean, I literally just like slapped in my chest and was like, what just happened? Because that didn't make any sense to me at all. But from the Timberwolves standpoint, you understood that hey, they were dealing with the taxes and all that, the second apron, all that kind of stuff with cash space with the new CBA rules. I get that, but under the same breath, okay, you traded for Rudy Gobert. You built that chemistry up for a year. You were I think you were the best defensive team in the league during that time last season. You beat Denver in the second round of the playoffs, and obviously you didn't have enough to beat Dallas. I think if they won the first two games at home, because I think they definitely had a chance, then that series would have gone to 7 games. And so you make a run like that, and then you make this kind of move. And I don't think, and obviously that has not served them well in this case this season. They should have kept Cat, and if they were in a predicament with the CBA rules and all that, I think they should have, gone to a different direction where they would have been able to keep that 3 together. Because who knows what could happen this year if they kept them. It could have been where they would have made a trade to get another piece that may fit better for the team and see what happens this year. But the fact that they traded Cat out, and obviously they're not even a contending team anymore. And to your point, Ant is not a happy man, and he's called out on the team left and right. The pieces that they got from New York is just not working. So that's why I say, man, it is not looking good up there. But hey, we all know Cat is doing very well in New York. Hopefully that he wins a chip. But yeah, it's just not looking good for them.
And for those of y'all that don't know, great take by the way, Garrett. As always, for those of y'all that don't know, this is our producer Wiley. He does an amazing show.
Wiley.
on the he does
What's up?
amazing work on the show, as y'all can tell. So I would love to hear what you have to say on this.
Look, man, I got a little rebuttal when it comes to damn it, why I blank on his name already? Not Cat. Damn, who Cat get traded for? We just don't.
Oh,
Julius
Julius
Randle.
Randle. Julius
Yeah,
Randle.
Julius Randle.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, y'all. I look, getting old. We gonna
No,
blame.
you're fine.
Look, we gonna blame it. We gonna blame it on that. But Julius Randle. I only have a rebuttal because his demeanor on the court, and that's both for New York and now Minnesota.
Minnesota.
He's not getting the ball. You see it. You see it in his face. You see it in his demeanor. You see it in his play, and that's what pisses me off about Julius Randle, because you could be having the same type of, yes, I understand that you're upset that you got traded, but you also got, it's not like you got traded to the worst team in the league. You got traded to another contender. So if you're that pissed off, play like it. Play like you pissed off. Show that New York made the biggest mistake that they could have possibly made, because that's what Cat is doing. Cat is like, hey, I'm in New York. I'm here. I'm here to ball, and he's been playing like it ever since he stepped on the court at Madison Square Garden. So why can't you do the same, Julius? That's the only thing that to me, that's the major thing. Like, Minnesota has the team. They have a complete squad. You have a point, you have your star, you have all your players that you need to make it far in the playoffs, into the finals. Julius Randle is the weakest link when it comes to the Minnesota Timberwolves right now. Right behind them is Rudy Gobert, but if he can fix his demeanor and his play, it'll change a lot for the Timberwolves, and that's what makes them the biggest disappointment. Look, Garrett, I was with you. I was like, he better not name not another team.
Man, I was
Far,
literally thinking Antoine was gonna say something else, but even if he did, I would say, hold up, before we go to the next statement, I'm gonna talk about the Timberwolves, because I'm not letting that go. I
right.
can't let that go. Nope.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Absolutely. And like Wiley, and please stay. Absolutely. Please stay. Like, even as we assess what they're going through right now, like Randall, like he came over, he's played 44 games. He's been Iron Man over there. He's been very healthy after suffering his injury in New York. He's averaging 19 points a game with 7 rebounds. And if you round up, it's 5 assists. But how do you think he's performed as a co-star? For Anthony? Obviously, again, like they're 21, they're 23 and 21, but he's still really young, man, at 30 years old. So I think he's going to be on the team for a little bit himself. So how do you think he's performed as a co-star for the future, unless you think Randall's just going to get bounced around a bunch of teams at this point?
I think he doesn't want to be there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just me. I really do. I think he does not want to be there. And yeah, he's still going to play. He's going to play his game. He's going to play like his game. He's going to get, his points, those stats. And that's relatively easy to do, because you don't have to worry about being the man on the T-Wolves. That's what Ant is for. And then you have Mike Conley, who's going to help lead that team. He's the vet on the court. He's the point guard of the team. So you don't have to worry about all that. All you have to do is do your part. Unless he finds a switch to kick in, like it's going to be a long season, and Ant's just going to get more frustrated. And I can already tell, if Ant gets frustrated and he starts lashing out, Julius is going to go into a shell. We've seen him do it before. He's going to go into that shell, and it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be a rough season. So I think he's the key piece. Julius is the key piece for whatever turnaround that the T-Wolves need to make.
And as we assess the future of the Timberwolves, where do you think they go from here, Garrett? Like I said, like Anthony is still averaging 26 points a game right now with 6 rebounds. So he's still playing really good, man. Like he's still going out there with a fire under him. He wants to win every game. He's fresh off winning a gold medal last summer. He still wants to come back and win in Minnesota. And we've seen them lose their superstars before. We've seen them lose Kevin Garnett. They just threw away Carl Anthony. We've seen them lose Kevin Love. So we really want to see them really stay at the upper echelon of the Western Conference after taking such a long break. When they made the Western Conference last year, it was like a 20-year break with them. They had made it past that round. So I think the last time they did it, Kevin Garnett won MVP. It was MVP KG. 2004 exactly. So what do you think happens with Minnesota, Garrett, as they move on to the All-Star break? We're gonna talk about trades in a minute. We can honestly segue to that in a second, but I did want your last take on Minnesota right now.
I don't know if y'all can see it, but I got my Hawks pendant. I'm just gonna say that the Ant, if he's out there, if he's listening, just go ahead and request that trade and come back home.
Come on home.
We go just come back home. But no, all seriousness. But I think like you said, we'll talk about teams at upcoming trade deadline in about 2 weeks. But I think for Minnesota, it's a lot that's going on right now. With the whole Julius Randle not really wanting to come here, and we all know that the NBA is a business. So whether you like it or not, this is how it is. But I just think what they need to do really is buckle down, and whatever issues that they have, fix it and try to put it together, because there's no doubt that even though that they are a worse team than that they were last year, this is a team that has a high level of expectations and looking to win right now. And that should be the objective, and whatever it takes to do that, then you do that. But yeah, I think this is one of the reasons why Minnesota is one of the most disappointing teams in the league, because of that trade. Because like I said, I've never seen a team that goes on a run like that and then decides to blow up the nucleus. I mean, I just never seen that. You keep that going. You keep that going. And like I said, I understand that you want to save money and not to put yourself in a financial predicament, because I'm one of those people that's like, hey, you gotta be financially disciplined to build a contending team. But in this case, this wasn't a move to do that. I would have tried to work out other options, honestly. But yeah, I think that if they're able to just hash everything out, say what you gotta say off your chest and whatever, and try to go win games, that's all that matters. But of course they'll figure out other stuff in the off season. But I just think that what they have right now, they still have enough to make a run. So that's what they need to do.
And I agree wholeheartedly, and I'll give my last 2 cents. I agree with what both of you said, absolutely. And I did want to say one last thing on what Garrett said with the money. Julius Randle's 4-year contract is only worth $117 million, and Cat's was an exponentially larger than Julius is. Like I said, he gets paid around $220 million. So to really see Minnesota really sacrifice you can really say that on this really sacrifice the potential they had just for financial value. I just can't believe that. And how Wiley said, I think getting traded to the Big Apple has lit a fire under Karl Anthony Towns. He stayed in Minnesota for so long out in the cold. I bet you there's a lot more to do in New York City than there is up in Minnesota. And I'm happy for him. He's he was appreciated in Minnesota. We saw him when he went back just now. He got the standing ovation and stuff like that. But I think being in a whole other situation that's really lit a fire under him and showed him how much he was loved outside the league, when he only saw himself in one jersey for 9 years, so I'm really happy to see him get the chance to move on. and like how we mentioned with the trades that are happening, regardless of whatever record you see a team have, they are always going to try to make some moves no matter what they're going through. It's the NBA. Winning means more money for everyone, more money for bettors, more money for the fans, like all that kind of stuff, So we were going to discuss some of the trades that we think might happen, or just really honestly give a team that we thought should be really aggressive at the trade deadline. Now, even as we talk about some of the trades that have happened so far this season, there's been a little bit like, when Thomas Bryant got traded from the Pacers to the Heat. When like we went to the Pacers from the Heat. And then I remember when the Warriors got Dennis Schroeder. And most notably for me, or at least because it happened kind of recently, when the Los Angeles Lakers just traded D'Angelo Russell back to Brooklyn to get Dorian Finney-Smith. And I thought that was honestly like kind of the right move for them, the way they have looked since then, rising back up to the 5th seed in the Western Conference. It sucks for Hawks fans.
It does.
It sucks for Hawks fans, absolutely. Yeah. And the most recent trade was when the Suns landed 3 first-rounders from the Jazz. It was a lot of inner workings in that trade that Shams Charania did put on his Twitter, well, all his social medias, of course. And that was them just, of course, trying to get some capital from all the trades they did, trying to build the team up that they have now that we just discussed. So I really honestly wanted to keep it fairly simple. I wanted just both of y'all to give me a team y'all thought like for certain is going to make a playoff push with the trade deadline. And you can honestly give me like how they do it and like a player you think would be good for them, or just like any facet of the game, whether they have to increase their shooting, increase their defense, just a team y'all think will be pretty aggressive at the trade deadline. You can start first, Wiley, if you would like to.
I was going to say the teams that I had aren't necessarily playoffs teams. Well, one's actually they're on the cusp, and I guess I'll go with them. The Detroit Pistons.
Okay.
So they've been a surprise team this year. Cade Cunningham's killing it. He's balling, leading the team in points and assists. Like he's really coming to his own this season. I think that they need to find a way to get from under Tobias Harris. Get rid of that contract. I get it. I get why they signed him, because you have to spend the money, or So Tobias Harris, I did see Tim Hardaway Jr., but I like Tim Hardaway Jr. I like him as he can be a backup point guard or a shooting guard, and he's pretty much done pretty well alongside of Cade thus far. Mm-hmm. As far as for who I'm not necessarily sure. I'm not necessarily sure who, but just for the Pistons' sakes, because of the fact they have the lowest payroll and they're under the cap, which gives them an entire a complete playing field going into free agency. But to make it even sweeter for them, it's either you go after a co-star along Cade Cunningham, or you just find a way to start cutting money so that way you can go find another star to sit alongside Cade.
Mm-hmm. And let me ask you just 1 minute, Garrett. Like, if we had to pick any of the players on their roster to become that co-star, would you pick Ausar Thompson? Would you pick Jaden Ivey, who, like, I think he was the 4th pick when he came in out of Purdue? So who do you think would be developed into that star based on how they've looked already? Like, I like Ausar Thompson a lot. But of course, that's just based on potential, really. He's still developing as a young player. So how do you think? What player you think could be that star for Cunningham, or do they have to really go out and get one, like how you said?
Oh, I think Garrett froze.
Oh no, that was to you, Wiley.
Oh, that was to me. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh yeah. You're fine.
Man, like you said, I'm with I'm with Thompson. I like Thompson, but like you said, that's strictly off potential. Jaden Ivey as well.
Mm-hmm.
It really, because if you can develop one of them, like then you like the sky's really the limit after that. Be like you end up saving. You have even again, you have this pile of money that you can now put a solid team together. But I think they need a veteran on that team. That team is still that team is young. That team is young, regardless of how you look at it. And I know that they have Tobias Harris, they have Tim Hardaway Jr. Yeah, they're veterans, but I think they need like they need a more solid vet in
Mm-hmm.
that locker room. And but I would want that vet to be more along, at the very least, a star. Doesn't have to be a superstar, but at least a star that can help lead and guide that team. I think if they get that star, man, I'm trying to think of
And
who
it's all
who
right.
is who is
Mhm.
I don't necessarily have a who. That's the thing.
Oh yeah, nah, and that's why I was saying nah. Yeah, we're gonna keep it simple. That's why I was like, I was thinking like a player already on the roster. Like I was honestly gonna say like Jaden Ivey, man. He's
Yeah,
already averaging 18 points a game right now. He's still super young, so I think he's honestly taking that leap as his backcourt mate. He's only 22 years old, and he's honestly doing this thing. He's developing the way that he should. Um, he comes from a basketball family. His mother,
yeah.
Neil Ivy, is the head coach for the women's Notre Dame's basketball team. And if y'all that watch college basketball, they are absolutely amazing, not just from their backcourt, but to their forwards as well. Sonia Citron, Maddie Westbeld. I'm really high on all of those ladies. Of course, the notorious Olivia Miles and Hannah Hidalgo. And yeah, man, like that was a great pick for the Pistons. I can see that for sure. And you have something else you want to say,
Yeah,
right?
I was going to say just last if they can be anywhere close from development, because they've done, as we can see, they've done well in the draft. If they can develop what they have right now, keep that young core as much as possible,
Mm-hmm.
like uh, Minnesota did, like Golden State when they had Steph, Clay, and Draymond. Like if that organization can pull something off like that, like that's what will propel them in into major contenders, instead of like where we see them now, where they're possibly on the bubble, or type of play in type of team right now.
I agree, and like they drafted Ron Holland, of course, and like we'll see how he pans out for them as well. And yeah, Gary, you can give a team as well that who you thought would be aggressive at the deadline for maybe like rebuild purposes or a playoff push.
Yeah, so to Wiley's point, I did have Detroit on my list, given the fact, at least one of those teams, because of the fact that, I mean, they're in the playoff hunt right now. So it does make, a lot of sense for them to buy at a trade deadline and add more
Mhm.
veterans, because to his point, they are a very young team, but they do have a solid young core with Cunningham and Thompson and Duran. And I even tweeted this out, and this is probably going to be a long shot. I would love to have Jalen Duran on this team, because even for the Hawks, we
Saw
need,
that.
that rim protector, that big rebounding guy. And I would love to have him on my team, but I don't think that's going to happen. But I think for Detroit, they do need to add more veterans. I don't know exactly know a player in particular that they could pursue, but I do think that they just need to continue to add more veterans on that team. But I would say another team that could be aggressive is the Sacramento Kings.
Mm.
We know that they fired Mike Brown, and they're doing a great job under their interim head coach Doug Christie, and they're, I believe, on a 10-2 run right now. So they're on a really good stretch. I think they are going to continue to add. I've heard Cam Johnson, that is a name on their radar as well, and other wing guys. And look, I mean, if you're a Hawks fan, you're rooting for the Kings to be good this year to make the playoffs, or at least make it. If they go into a lottery, hopefully it's outside the top 12 because we need all the picks that we can get. But yeah, I think those are two teams that are going to buy. I do also have Atlanta on that list, not looking to buy, but looking to sell. Obviously, the point I made earlier about Yeka Okongwu, who's getting the starting job going forward, and Clint Capella's coming off the bench. So I think that's a clear sign that they're ready to move on from Clint, and that could very much happen by the trade deadline. Don't know what kind of assets we would get for him, but it looks like that, hey, we're moving to a different direction and see what we have in Yeka Okongwu. And also I think Bogey Bogdanovich, he may be on the move as well. And other teams, I would say Miami, the Minnesota Timberwolves, and Golden State. Obviously, we already touched up on Miami, but with the Wolves, they could look to add to bolster their depth, and same thing with Golden State. I think it seems that as long as they still have Steph Curry, then they're always going to look to find ways to win more games and make another finals push. So I think those are teams that could make a move that could be aggressive by the deadline.
Okay, for sure. Yeah, great picks by both of you gentlemen. Of course, as always. For me, I had an East and a West team, similar to y'all. My Eastern Conference team, I was gonna say Milwaukee. I think they're gonna buy. I think they're gonna try to go all in. They got off to a real rough start at the beginning of the season, and they changed it around. I can only be happy for Doc Rivers. His seat was getting pretty hot there for a second, but he's ended up turning it around. The former 2008 NBA champion of the Boston Celtics, the head coach. Giannis is still playing amazing. He's averaging 32 points a game with 12 rebounds and 6 assists at 31 years old. I mean, at 30 right now. He just turned 30 in December, just turned 30 this year. So, he's still looking great. If he could go to another team, get another core, and try to chase another championship, which is clearly what he's trying to do, which is why I said they are definitely going to go all in, or I feel like they should at least go all in at the deadline. They have the pieces necessary. They just have to get a little bit more to really get over that hump. They're the 4th seed right now, sitting under the New York Knicks, who have the 3rd seed on them by about 5 games. 5 games. And I just think for the Bucks right now that, again, like I said, they're on the fringe. I still like Chris Middleton. I don't think he should go anywhere, but he's averaging 12 points a game this year, and he's only played 18 games. He's averaging 12 points a game. He's only played 18 games. And obviously we saw him deal with an injury, how we've known for him to deal with in the past. But I think that they should get a little bit more pieces just to add on, try to make up for the diminished production of Chris Middleton, really try to help out with some of the pieces that could really increase their defense. Their defense kind of taking a hit, even with the personnel that they have. Just losing Drew Holiday can definitely do that to you. The trade-off for Damian Lillard was a more dynamic offense, but it didn't make them better defensively. And honestly, I can't say it truly made them a better team like that. I thought Drew Holiday played the point guard role very, very well when he was there. I thought he was a great two-way player. And he's still a fantastic player, of course, right now for the Celtics, even at 35 years old. He has not slowed down. And again, for Damian, in his first year in Milwaukee, he's averaging 25 points and 7 assists a game. Of course, we know he did want to go to Miami, but the former number 6 overall pick has played outstanding during his time in Milwaukee. He's 34 years old. So, I don't think 34 is old by any means, of course, but we'll see how much longer he has playing at this level, averaging 34. I say Damian, a player like that who leans on his athleticism, his speed to get to his spots. His jump shot isn't going to fall off for a very long time. So that's going to keep him averaging around the 20-point per game mark, especially with his basketball IQ. But his athleticism will take a dip. His ability to run across some screens on off-ball plays will take a dip eventually. But right now they're still looking good. You feel me? So that's why I think they're my front runner for the Eastern Conference team to want to go out and try to get some pieces. They have some good. Like I'm really high on AJ Jackson Jr. I mean, like yeah, like I like him a lot. Torian Prince has been pretty good off their bench, in my opinion. The former Atlanta Hawk, we drafted him, of course. And Brook Lopez, in my opinion, has been great. He has a plus minus of a plus 62 average this season. So anytime he's on the floor, I think he has a great impact. And he's still playing really good at 36 years old. He's averaging 12 points a game with 5 rebounds, shooting 37% from beyond the arc. So he can still spread the floor at a very high level. He can still rebound moderately well. And he's still a good defender as well, Brook Lopez, averaging 2 blocks a game right now at 36 years old. So I just think they only need little bit more pieces to really take them over that edge. Like how you guys said, it's hard for me to name a player specifically that they need. But I would say probably just some like perimeter defense, and definitely a wing to make up for, like I said, Chris Middleton's dip in production, which has absolutely happened. Of course, like I said, he's had his fair share of injuries, but it's part of basketball. In his last few games, he's had 13 points, 13 points, 14 points, 16 points, and 11 points. So he hasn't been able to crack over 20 in the last 5 games, which we're accustomed to seeing him do all the time. Of course, Chris Middleton. But we'll see what happens for them. Chris Middleton's 33 years old. But like I said, I think they're going to buy at the trade deadline. I do think you will see them try to make a trade or two, especially knowing the superstar that they have. He told a guy he could get off the team in front of the press, not caring how they felt about it. So I do think that Giannis is going to be really vocal about them trying to get more pieces at the trade deadline. And my Western Conference team that I was going to pick was the former NBA champions, the Denver Nuggets. I really think that Denver, all they really need is a little bit more pieces to get them over the hump. It's honestly a similar situation for the Milwaukee Bucks. I think because don't get me wrong, Julian Strawther has played amazing off the bench. He actually had a great game last night. With 23 points, shooting 55% from the three-point line as they beat the Philadelphia 76ers 144 to 109. I just think for Denver, it's kind of like the same thing. I feel like they could use more power forward depth, somewhere around there. Really just really help out with their interior defense. Obviously with Jokic down there, they're always going to have a fighting chance, but I still think there's some missing pieces that they could get to improve the team. Michael Porter Jr. is taking that next step this season, averaging 18 points a game with 6 rebounds. But I still think that obviously they could be better. And Jokic would definitely agree with that. They're currently sitting at the 4th seed of the Western Conference. So I really think they only need a little bit more pieces to take them over the hump. And in Denver specifically, because as long as they have Jokic on the team, they can literally still win a ring. He's averaging 32 points with 13 rebounds and 10 assists a game. So he literally has not missed a step. And I feel like that's all Denver really needs. They're 27-16 as of right now. They're on a 4-game winning streak, and they're 6-4 in their last 10. So I really want to see Denver be aggressive. Memphis has looked good. I don't really think they need any new pieces like that. Zach Edey has been phenomenal for them, fresh out of the draft in the center position. Just assessing all the other teams who I think could buy in the Western Conference. But that's my front runner for the Western Conference. Also, an honorable mention for the West, I was going to say the Los Angeles Lakers as well. I do think knowing LeBron James, he's definitely going to go right up to Rob Pelinka's office and tell him to definitely try to make some trades. We saw them trade D'Angelo Russell, as I mentioned earlier. So they have definitely been picking up the phone, especially knowing JJ Redick in his first season, who's honestly done very well. JJ Redick, he's done great in his first season as an NBA head coach. He had a lot of doubters, similar to the Steve Nash situation, but he has this team at 23-18 his first season, replacing Darvin Ham. And he's looked really good. But yeah, honestly, just to think about the Lakers, he obviously Russell is gone now, which kind of hurt their guard depth a little bit. But either way, like they still have Max Christie, they still have Dalton Knecht, who have both played good this season. And I think a point guard is where like they could really fill in some gaps. I don't think Gabe Vincent has performed over to the level that he should has ever since coming over from Miami in free agency. And I know they traded D'Angelo Russell, who was a point guard, but I feel like that was because the way he was playing and his defense didn't really fit the model of team they were trying to construct in Los Angeles. So I think that's why D'Angelo, even being a point guard himself, was traded from the Lakers, unfortunately.
I was gonna say, question: what's the model of team that they trying to construct in LA?
Mm-hmm. And like, yeah, see, because it's funny. It's funny you say that. Obviously, like I feel like they rely a lot on LeBron and AD night to night. Max Christie has been a bright spot for them this season. I feel like they're just really trying to like build up their offense. They know like their defense, like it isn't the best. Obviously, they have Anthony Davis in the middle. LeBron's still a relatively good defender. Of course, he's not what he was from his 20s to mid-30s and things of that nature. But I feel like, D'Angelo just wasn't what they wanted. Like, even with the model of team they are building, of course, I just feel like he wasn't what they wanted. It was his second tenure. So I think they just thought he wasn't going to fit their style of play. Especially with his defense. Like I said, before he left, he was averaging 12 points a game with 5 assists. So that sounds like a pretty good backup point guard to me. But like I said, I think it was his defense at the end of the day. And we'll see what the Los Angeles Lakers do. I did want to mention them because I do think they will be buyers at the deadline. I think the guard, the particularly the point guard position, could take some lifting up for the Lakers. Of course, LeBron's leading the league, not the league, but the team in assists with 9 right now. So even at age 40, he could still average 9 assists a game, still lead his team in assists, average almost 10 assists a game. But I just feel like with LeBron at his older age, he doesn't want to do all like the point forward responsibilities all 48 minutes now. His body won't let him. And yeah, I think the point guard position could use some building up for the Lakers. And yeah, I know you gave your 2 cents on the Lakers, Wiley. I'd love to hear what you have to say about them. Like, what do you think the Lakers do?
I mean, it's just more so all the talk about the Lakers, my frustrations with the Lakers have been they rely too much on LeBron. They want him to play all these minutes, do everything on the court, and then even when they're on the court, when he gets the ball, everybody just stands there and watch. So that's part of the issue. The other issue is AD. Like, all of this is was supposed to have transitioned over to AD when they got him.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw what happened, and of course, unfortunate, injuries, things of that nature. I mean, I'll be quick to say that they need to wrap him in bubble wrap at any given point, because at any time that he falls down, it's a hold your breath moment, because we don't know if he's injured, if he's playing possum, whatever. But it's always a hold your breath moment when he hits the floor. And I'm like, how much do you want to invest in that moving forward, especially whenever LeBron decides to call it quits? Everything else around them outside of LeBron and AD, it's been a crapshoot.
Mm-hmm.
Like you mentioned, D'Lo. There we go. You mentioned D'Lo. Like, at one point, it looked like it would have worked, and next thing you know, it goes down the toilet. Good night. What's my other guard? Yeah, I mentioned him from Miami.
Gabe Vincent.
Oh, Gabe Vincent.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Another crapshoot, and it looked like to be the right move because of how well he played for Miami, especially in the playoffs. And that turned out that's looking like it's been a crapshoot. So, or like they wrote snake eyes on that. So it's like they're playing the guessing game, and they're trying to bring this piece here, put this piece here. Oh, we LeBron, we still need you to play the point forward, but we're gonna try and get these guys in so we can give you some rest. And it's never been the case because LeBron is still playing 30 plus minutes, damn near 30, pretty much the whole game. It's like you see him play games where the only time he gets a break really is in between timeouts, halftime. Like it gets to those points. And I'm like, again, how long do you want LeBron to keep doing that? Like you said, his body is not going to be able to hold up because of the amount of mileage that he has on it. So hopefully they figure this thing out. I do not know. I don't know what other moves they're going to make going into the trade deadline. They need to get. I think they need to get a little bit younger. But at what point do you decide to go ahead and shrink this down so that way you can bring some younger pieces in and get them developed to a point where you have that contending team? But of course, we know it's the Lakers. They're not going to do that. They want to be in the playoffs by any means necessary.
Yeah, man. Even just to end on that, to give my last 2 cents. Yeah, man. Like I just think as long as they have LeBron James on the roster, like they're gonna try to do whatever they can to win a championship. He brought them one already, of course, during the bubble, during the COVID era. But I feel like just with having LeBron on the roster, seeing him still be able to average 25 points with 10 rebounds and 9 assists. Like the fact he could still put up these numbers, I think they're still going to try to go all in. I don't think they're going to sell. I don't think they're going to try to trade one of their stars to try to rebuild. I think that sent LeBron to an early retirement. You know, the writing's on the wall for them to build around Anthony Davis as soon as LeBron calls it a career. Anthony Davis signed a contract extension with the Lakers. I think it was about a good 3-year extension. So I think it's about like 4 to 5 years in total now that he's on the roster. So he's probably going to retire in the purple and gold. So you're going to have an AD era in Los Angeles, in LA. It's going to be interesting to see what that looks like because they don't really have like that young, like I said, they got Max Christie, they got Dalton Connect, but not like that young lottery pick that's developing behind both of them that's supposed to be the future of the Lakers. And I feel like just with that in particular, like how I said, as long as they have LeBron, they're gonna try to make something shake. They know he's closer to ending his career than he was at the beginning of it. So it's gonna be a sad day to see him go. But do you have any 2 cents on the Lakers, Gary? We know it's the most one of the most popular teams in the league. No matter the record, they're always on national television. So, did you have anything to say on them, like whether they buy or sell or anything?
Yeah, I think, of course, to your point, while they have LeBron and AD, of course, they're going to continue to add on the roster and can still try to win a championship before, LeBron hangs it up. But I did like the move for Dorian Finney-Smith. I think he adds essential 3-point shooting and defense, and that's how the NBA has translated today, where it's all about defense and 3-point shooting, perimeter play, I should say. But yeah, I think if they're able to add, they should do so. And Wiley did make a good point where they should go young because obviously, even though LeBron said it himself that he could play for another few years if he wanted to, but obviously, he said that he's not gonna really do that. It does make sense to start thinking about the future, start thinking about not being, having LeBron on his roster for a long, for a short period of time. So you ought to think about the long term. So it does make sense for them to get younger. But again, that's not what the Lakers are known for. They're going to continue to, ride till the wheels fall off. So I don't think they're going to get younger until LeBron officially retires. So until he's, in the NBA in Lakers uniform, then they're going to continue to win. So I do anticipate for them to add for, if the opportunity comes. Like I said, they just added Dorian Finney-Smith, but if the opportunity is right for them, then I think they'll pounce and try to make a push for the finals.
And yeah, man, like again, great discussion from all three of us. I think They're gonna continue to try to win. Until LeBron retires, they can't move on. Like I know a lot of Lakers fans actually want them to move on from LeBron so they can just blow it up and get started. But not as long as LeBron's there, like they're gonna continue to try. And as we move on to our third and final topic for this evening, I want to thank y'all again for joining us. We just had a lot to talk about on this evening. It's so much going around the NBA. We're in the heart of it right now, in the middle of the season, approaching All-Star break, approaching the trade deadline, of course, like how we just talked about. But obviously, the awards are nominated year-round. There's always a bunch of predictions always coming out, and we wanted to continue on with our discussion from last week. With the award races, and we wanted to decide who, or at least try to predict who we think will be the most improved player this year. Now, from all the betting odds, like most of them have Tyler Hero on winning the most improved player this year. The point guard for I think he plays the two for the Miami Heat, averaging 24 points and 5 assists a game, like I mentioned earlier. But I can start with you, Garrett. Who do you think would be your most improved player if the season ended right now, and why?
Jalen Johnson. you know me. I'm a rock from my team, but I mean, even if I wasn't a Hawks fan, it has to be Jalen Johnson because I mean he's a guy that's averaging 20, 10, and 5. I mean, and he's 22 years old, super young, and he's not even in his prime. And unfortunately, he suffered a left shoulder injury tonight against the Raptors, and hopefully that's only going to keep him out for a day to day. Hopefully, it's not going to require surgery, or he's going to be out for a couple months or anything like that. God forbid that's not the case. But even though, like I said, his impact on the team is, and I don't know if anybody has ever said it, but I'll say it here first. Even though that Trae Young is the best player on the team, but I feel like Jalen Johnson, his impact on the team and how important he is for everybody. I think he carries just as much weight as Trae. I mean, both guys are essential for this team because it's hard for the team to win without Trae. And you can say the same thing for Jalen Johnson. So, but for JJ to take this leap again, 20, 10, and 5, really a triple double threat on any given night, he does have that capability. So like I said, I hope that his injury that's not going to keep him out long term. But if the season ended today, then I think that Jalen Johnson will get the award. And it's kind of a repeat of last year. If he didn't get injured for a long period of time last year, I think it was a fair shot that he would have won the award last season. But if he's able to manage to stay healthy well enough, then I think he'll get it this time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can go ahead and go second, Wiley. I did want to say this right quick. That was last week when I checked the betting odds. The updated odds for this week, Cade Cunningham is your betting favorite to win the MVP, maybe one day for sure. The MIP with a minus 175, like how he mentioned, he's averaging about 24.5 points per game with about 6 rebounds and almost 10 assists as he leads the Detroit Pistons as of right now. So just wanted to give that update. And the second one was Norman Powell at plus 430. But who is your most improved player, Wiley?
Perfect transition, Cade Cunningham. And he's doing everything that you need, that the Pistons need him to do. Like you said, pretty much 25 points a game, 7 rebounds, 9 assists, and has a 2 assist to turnover ratio of 2. So, I mean, you can't really ask for more from a player like Cade, and especially how Detroit has looked over the past few years since he's been there. Like they've literally gotten this out the mud, and it's because of Cade. Like it didn't look promising when he got there, but you saw it when you saw it with him as he played. It was just more so the Pistons trying to figure this thing out, figuring out how to construct this team, and it looks like they're starting to figure it out. Like we discussed earlier, once they get a real good solid vet in there to to help assist with that, sky's the limit for not only that team but for Cade, because I think that he'll take another step after that, because that'll open up everything for him even more. But for right now, I think he's most improved.
He's still really young right now. If you had to say when you think he will win an MVP, what year would that be? He's 27 years old right now, coming off a 29 point, 11 assists, and 6 rebound performance against the Hawks yesterday.
Oh, he's had a tear. His last 5 games, he's had a tear. Like you said, between the Hawks, he had 32 against the Rockets, 20 against the Suns and the Pacers. Against the Suns, he had 26 and 11 assists. 24 and 9 against the Pacers, and then
36 on the Knicks.
36, 2 and 4 against the Knicks. So, as far as for MVP, I can see, and again, a lot of this is going to depend on how this team is constructed. But
right.
Even still, I think within the next 3 to 4 years, we can see him in the conversation.
Okay, 23 years old right now. He'd be about 27, just entering his prime around that time. So that makes sense on the timeline. At least you could say that. And yeah, man, for me, for my most improved player, dang, I kind of didn't want to have like the same one. I can pick who my second option was going to be. Then I was gonna go with Evan Mobley. I think
I had him too.
I think Evan Mobley. Great minds think alike. You feel
there
me?
It is.
Wow. JJ don't get no love, man.
Oh no. See,
I'm not familiar with JJ like that, like you are, dog.
No, me personally. Like, okay. Like the thing is, do I think he could get it? Absolutely. Like it was just me not trying to like, I guess like
trying not to be a homer.
I'm just trying to
like I'm repping the Hawks on like around my neck. I got the Falcons, and you see Wiley, he repping the A with his cap, bro, and you just man, bro.
Be the homer, be that guy. It's okay.
Nah, it's all good.
Hey, shout out to Garrett. Be that guy.
Of course. I think both players have played outstanding this year. It's literally neck and neck, to be quite honest with you, given the way they have performed. For me, it's more so like it's hard to take it away from Jalen, but then there's someone that could say, "Oh, it's hard to take it away from Cade," you know. And I feel like with the way Evan Mobley has performed, I think he has shown now more than ever that he is absolutely going to be a future superstar in this league. He's almost gotten to 20 and 10 this year. Same with Jalen Johnson, of course, who also averaged 5 assists a game. Another part of his game, but I think it's also the defensive potential with Evan Mobley as well. He's really, he really has the potential to be like, in my opinion, like the best 2-way power forward. Like almost in his era, you know, being 23 years old. I do think that Jalen's a really good defender as well, but there has been times where we've seen Jalen be scored on in the post, like sometimes where a mismatch will be able to take advantage of him. And I think Evan Mobley, he's more of an interior defender. He's pretty mobile on his feet. He can move his feet as well. But I think like just his lockdown defense, I think he's really taking that next step this year. And I think he's only going to continue to improve. And it's just truly unfortunate that Jalen Johnson suffered that injury. Not even, of course, the one tonight, but also when he had to sit out for that string of like five or 6 games. It really took away from a lot of his momentum, unfortunately. And even on the betting odds, like he was number 1 at one point. You know, he was the betting favorite to win it, and now I think he's dropped down to like number 6 now. And now he has suffered an injury. Unfortunately, I don't want to say anything, but it might keep him out. Hopefully not. and we'll keep him out for an extended amount of time. Of course, praying for JJ, absolutely, even if I wasn't a Hawks fan, most definitely. And I just think for it to be Evan Mobley, for it to be his 4th season, coming from when he was averaging 15 points and 9 rebounds this year, he's still averaging like 19 points and 9 rebounds this year. Last year he was averaging the 15 and 9 rebounds. Now he's averaging 18 and 9 this year, almost 20 and 10. And again, he's 23 years old, the same age as Jalen Johnson. Like I said, if I had to give one thing for Evan right now, I think it's probably like his durability. I guess you could say that'd be like the only thing. Not like Jalen's made of glass or anything like that, but we have seen him have to take off games like due to his right shoulder, due to like other like miscellaneous injuries that will keep him out for certain nights. And I think Evan Mobley's also been rather consistent for the Cleveland Cavaliers with the amount of games that he has played this year. Similar to Jalen, of course, who has also played. But I think with Evan Mobley, he's played about 38 games this season. And he's looking really good. Like the sample size that he has shown us, he has shown that he's absolutely on pace to become a superstar player. Same with Jalen Johnson, absolutely, who has definitely shown that as well. I don't know. I guess it's just for me with Evan Mobley. I think he has shown now that he is more than likely going to take over his team when the time comes. And and Mobley's played just 3 games more than Jalen Johnson, but he's about to play a lot more now as well, seeing how Jalen Johnson has suffered an injury, unfortunately. And that's another reason, one of the bigger reasons why I think Evan Mobley has that edge over him right now, because of the activity from both players. I think Evan Mobley could definitely take it if the season ended right now. It's between those 3 that we did mention, in my opinion, between Jalen Johnson, Cade Cunningham, and Evan Mobley. If I had to choose between all of those 3 who would win it, because of course I just didn't want to have the same picks and stuff. I think Cade Cunningham would honestly really take the award right now. He has helped his franchise transcend since their abysmal start to last season. They were 3-35, and now they're looking like a strong playoff team, an actual certified playoff team. They're a comfortable 6th seed. Like that young athletic roster has truly formed around this talented point guard. And if I had to choose who I think out of all 3 of the candidates that we mentioned, who I think would win it, I think Cade Cunningham would take it. But I do think that Evan Mobley, like how I mentioned, is one of the top candidates to take home the award come this spring.
I gotta watch more Hawks games, dog.
Yeah. Please do, because this one hasn't at all.
It's all. And again, obviously, as we assess what the players bring to the team, like how we said, Jalen Johnson is obviously a magnet for teams when they play against the Hawks. They know that what the Hawks run, with their dynamic offense, they're third in pace, it really revolves around Jalen Johnson and Trae Young. Obviously, Jalen has taken a big step this year. Like how we mentioned, he was averaging 16 points, 8 rebounds, and 3 assists a game last year. Again, like I said, for me, the only edge I give with Evan, is just his durability. And like we've seen, not like he's made of glass, but I do think that the fact that his franchise has that security, with Evan Mobley, for the future, because now we don't know how much Jalen's going to be out for. And we've seen this happen in the past when he's taking collisions, when he's taking rough bumps. He was out earlier this season, like I mentioned. It kept saying I think a right abductor strain for Jalen or something like that. He kept missing games about 5 to 6 in a row. And again, you have to be there for your team every night. Of course, it's harder. It's easier said than done with 82 games on the season. But I think other candidates who are also having great seasons, not just Jalen. Of course, there's more teams than the Hawks. That we have to look at. I think they're having strong seasons as well, and they're also consistent with their play. They're also healthy more than Jalen, you could say. And especially Cade Cunningham, who's been very solid for his franchise this year. Same with Jalen Johnson, of course. Again, I just didn't want to have my opinion shrouded in bias. I of course I'm a journalist for the Hawks. Like how Garrett covers the team as well for the lead that we both work for. But I was really like assessing what other teams have done as well, and I just thought there were other candidates.
Okay, dog, be that guy. Rep
no, no,
somebody gotta do it. Somebody gotta do
rep
it.
your team.
Of course. And yeah, man, absolutely. Great show tonight. That was my one of my front runners right now. Like I said, if I had to make a choice who's winning the award, I'm picking Cade Cunningham. Like he's the one that's really taking his franchise to the next level this season. Playing like on the verge of a superstar right now, averaging more points and more assists. Of course, it's a point guard, stuff like that. But Jalen Johnson's played phenomenal. I'm going to end the podcast by saying that. He has played absolutely outstanding this season, really getting all this praise from like high-level journalists like Sam Vecini, Zach Lowe, even Brian Windhorst from ESPN, who is extremely critical, has given him the praise of being a future all-star this season. So I do think we are going to see Jalen come back and finish the season strong, even after his injury. I just think that, obviously, like I said before, there's other teams that are playing good right now, and we got to look outside of that. So I did want to give some love to Evan Mobley. But if I did have to make a choice between all these three candidates, who are literal most improved player candidates, these aren't our opinions. They're actually the betting favorites to win the award. We're betting underdogs, close underdogs, stuff like that. I would choose Cade Cunningham right now as the most improved player of the 2024-2025 season.
Agreed.
And again, it's a real tight race, obviously, right now. I just think with Cade, like he has his team in the 6th seed. Jalen has shined with Trey off the floor. Like even when they played the Celtics, Jalen had 18 points, 13 rebounds, and 10 assists. So when Trey is not there, Jalen has shown he can carry a team as well. I just think that Cade's been consistent all year. Like there's been times where Jalen didn't play that good this season. It's like their most recent game versus the Knicks. He didn't perform that nicely versus Cade Cunningham, who had 36 on their head. Now, of course, the last time before that game, Jalen also had 21 points and 15 rebounds against the Knicks in their in-season tournament game. But I just think that goes back to the consistency that I mentioned. I think it's the consistency as well that has ensured that, in other people's eyes, that Cade Cunningham will be the most improved player this season. And other players as well, like Evan Mobley and stuff like that. And, of course, Jalen Johnson, too, like how we said. But those were all of our topics for tonight's show. We want to thank y'all again for watching us. It's always a blessing to do this. Anytime we can get together and talk about basketball. We know there's way more things going on in life right now other than just shooting some hoops. But we want to be able to provide a little bit of relaxation and just an honestly fun time for y'all. Outside of your lives, if we can do that just by talking about basketball. So that's it for me, unless you had any ending notes that you wanted to say, Garrett. And that's it for me, man. Good show.
Yes, sir. Good show. Another one in the books.
Absolutely. Episode 60, one of many. Want to thank y'all again for joining us. Stay safe in that weather. We're catching snow in Atlanta right now. We're not really accustomed to that down here. So thank y'all again for joining us. God bless y'all. And y'all stay safe out there. Please do. And please check us out again next week for our next episode 61 of the Uncommon Commentators podcast.